All right, so today let's dive into something pretty interesting. Authenticity in online dating.
Ooh.
You probably experienced that whirlwind of swiping and matching on all those
Yeah.
traditional apps. But we're going a little deeper this time. We're going to explore how one app, just you two, is trying to kind of shake things up by putting realness,
Mm.
front and center.
Yeah, it's fascinating how this app is. It's tapping into this growing desire for a genuine connection, kind of a shift away from all that superficiality that many people just experience on those traditional dating platforms.
Yeah, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not just talking about, finding a date. We're talking about how our craving for, you know, authenticity is
Yeah.
actually changing the tech itself.
Right. The source that we're looking at today suggests that. Traditional dating apps, they often lead to these shallow connections because they prioritize quantity over quality. Users are bombarded with countless profiles, which leads to this focus on surface level attributes rather than, genuine compatibility.
It's like trying to find a meaningful conversation at a crowded party
Mhm.
where everyone's trying to shout over each other. No wonder people are feeling burned out.
Right. That's a great analogy. That constant pressure to present a perfect, idealized version of yourself, it can be exhausting. And ironically, it can actually hinder your chances of forming genuine connections.
So how does just you two address this? What makes it different?
Well, Just You Two takes a different approach by encouraging users to showcase their authentic selves through features like timelines and stories. Think of it as a less polished, more personal version of social media, specifically designed for fostering meaningful connections.
Hmm. That's interesting. But wouldn't sharing everyday moments make the app feel less focused on dating and more like just another social media platform?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
However, Just You Two manages to maintain its focus on dating by carefully curating the user experience. For example, the source highlights how the app's algorithms prioritize connections based on shared values and experiences, revealed through these personal stories, rather than just matching based on superficial criteria.
So it's not just about showing off, your latest vacation pics or perfectly plated meal.
Exactly. It's about giving potential matches a glimpse into your real life, your personality, your passions. Imagine seeing someone's genuine excitement about their volunteer work or their quirky hobby. It's a way to connect on a deeper level, beyond the perfectly posed selfies and carefully crafted bios.
Okay, I'm starting to see how just you two is,
Mm,
trying to create a different kind of dating experience.
yeah.
But how does this actually promote authenticity? Isn't it still possible for people to curate their timelines and stories
Yeah.
to present an idealized version of themselves?
That's where things get really interesting. The source reveals that Just You Two has implemented features that encourage spontaneity and genuine self-expression.
Really? Like,
For instance, they have a feature called Impromptu Moments, where users are prompted to share a quick photo or video of what they're doing at that very moment, without any filters or editing.
that's a cool idea. Kind of forces you to be in the moment and share a glimpse of your real life, without overthinking it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the source emphasizes how this emphasis on real-time sharing helps to build trust among users.
Trust is definitely key, especially when you're putting yourself out there in the world of online dating. So tell me more about how just you two is trying to foster a more authentic and trustworthy environment.
Well, they've taken several steps. For example, they have strict community guidelines that discourage the use of heavily edited photos or misleading information in profiles.
So they're actually trying to prevent people from creating those perfect but ultimately fake profiles that are so
Yep.
common on other apps.
Exactly. They also have a robust moderation system to flag and remove accounts that violate these guidelines.
That's really interesting. It seems like just you two is taking a more proactive approach to cultivating a community of genuine individuals rather than just letting people run wild and do whatever they want.
Absolutely. And the source suggests that this proactive approach is a key differentiator for Just You Two.
But how effective is it in practice?
Well, according to the source, early user feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. People are reporting feeling more comfortable being themselves on Just You Two, and they're finding that it leads to more genuine and meaningful connections.
Okay, that's encouraging. Sounds like just you two is onto something here.
It certainly seems that way, and it raises some really interesting questions about the future of online dating.
Like, is this a sign that the tide is turning against the superficiality of traditional dating apps?
It's definitely possible, and the source dives into some of the potential implications of this shift towards authenticity. For example, the source suggests that this increased focus on authenticity could lead to a fundamental shift in how we approach online dating. It's not just about finding someone who meets your, basic criteria anymore. It's about finding someone who aligns with your values, who appreciates your genuine self, and who you can truly connect with on a deeper level.
Yeah, that makes sense. But isn't that what everyone wants in a relationship?
Of course. But the source argues that traditional dating apps often make it difficult to find that kind of connection. The emphasis on superficial attributes and the pressure to present a perfect image can actually create barriers to real intimacy.
So you're saying that just U2 is trying to remove those barriers by encouraging vulnerability and genuine self-expression.
Exactly. And one of the most interesting things about Just U2 is how it leverages technology to achieve this.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that.
Well, for example, the app's algorithms don't just consider your stated preferences, they also analyze the content of your timelines and stories to identify patterns and themes that reveal your true interests and passions.
So if I'm constantly posting about hiking and nature photography, the app will connect me with people who share those interests, even if I forgot to mention them in my bio.
That's the idea. The source explains that this approach helps to create more meaningful matches because it goes beyond superficial criteria and focuses on shared values and experiences.
That's pretty cool. It's like the app is getting to know you on a deeper level and helping you find people who are truly compatible with who you are, not just who you say you are.
Precisely, and that can lead to more genuine connections and stronger relationships.
But what about the people who are still hesitant to be their true selves online? I mean, not everyone is comfortable sharing their deepest thoughts and feelings with strangers, even if it's on a dating app.
That's a valid concern, but the source highlights how Just U2 has created a community environment that encourages and supports vulnerability.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for one thing, they have features that allow users to share their stories anonymously, if they prefer. This way, people can dip their toes into the waters of vulnerability without feeling completely exposed.
That's a really thoughtful feature. It allows people to test the waters and see how it feels, to be more open and authentic, without feeling like they're risking too much.
Exactly. And the source points out that this gradual approach to vulnerability can actually be very empowering as people experience the positive feedback and genuine connections that come from sharing their true selves. They become more comfortable being authentic, both online and offline.
That's amazing. So just U2 isn't just about finding a date. It's about helping people build their confidence and embrace their true selves.
That's a great way to put it. And the source suggests that this emphasis on personal growth and authenticity is what sets Just U2 apart from other dating apps.
But is it really working? I mean, are people actually finding real lasting connections on this app?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Well, the source doesn't provide any concrete data on long-term relationship success rates, but they do highlight some interesting anecdotal evidence.
Like what?
For example, they share stories of users who have found deep and meaningful connections on Just U2. Connections that have led to lasting friendships, romantic relationships, and even marriages.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It sounds like Just U2 is more than just a dating app. It's a platform for building genuine human connections.
That's a great observation. And that leads us to a bigger question. Is this focus on authenticity just a trend in online dating? Or is it something more significant? Could it be a sign of a larger shift in how we interact online as a whole?
That's a really interesting question. What does the source say about that?
Well, they argue that Just U2 is part of a growing movement that's pushing back against the curated perfection and superficiality that's become so prevalent in our digital lives.
It's true that we're constantly bombarded with images of perfect bodies, perfect lives, perfect everything. It's exhausting.
And the source points out that this constant comparison can have a negative impact on our self-esteem and our ability to form genuine connections.
So you're saying that Just U2 is kind of like
Yeah.
an antidote to that, a place where people can escape the pressure to be perfect and just be themselves?
Exactly. And the source suggests that this desire for authenticity is spreading beyond the realm of dating. We're seeing it in social media, in online communities, and even in the workplace.
That's fascinating. It's like people are starting to realize that real connection is more valuable than likes and followers.
Precisely. And that's a really encouraging sign.
So Just U2 is kind of like a pioneer in this movement towards authenticity.
You could say that they're certainly at the forefront of this shift, and it will be interesting to see how their approach influences the future of online interactions as a whole.
That's a great point. But I'm curious, what are some of the potential challenges that just you two might face as it continues to grow?
That's a great question, and the source does acknowledge some potential hurdles. For example, one challenge is maintaining the authenticity of the platform as it scales. The larger the user base grows, the more difficult it becomes to ensure that everyone is genuinely committed to being themselves and connecting on a deeper level.
Mm.
You know.
Right. Yeah, it's like that old saying, too many cooks spoil the broth. How does the source suggest just you two can address this challenge?
Well, they emphasize the importance of community moderation and user feedback. Just U2 relies heavily on its users to report any profiles or behavior that seem inauthentic or violate the community guidelines.
So it's kind of like a self-regulating system
Yeah.
where the users themselves help to maintain the integrity of the platform.
Exactly. The source highlights how Just U2 has fostered a strong sense of community by empowering users to take ownership of the platform's culture. They've also implemented features that encourage positive interactions and discourage negativity or harassment.
Right, that's really smart.
Right.
By creating a supportive and welcoming environment, they're more likely to attract and retain users who are genuinely interested in authentic connection. What about the challenge of standing out? In a crowded market, I mean, there's so many dating apps out there. How can just U2 differentiate itself and attract new users?
Right, that's a key question. And the source suggests that just U2's focus on authenticity could be its biggest differentiator, as more and more people become disillusioned with the superficiality of traditional dating apps. They'll be seeking alternatives that offer a more genuine experience.
So just U2 is positioning itself as the go-to app for people who are tired of the games and ready for real connection.
Precisely. And the source points out that this message is resonating with a growing segment of the dating population. People are craving authenticity in all aspects of their lives, and that includes their romantic relationship.
Yeah, it's like this whole movement towards authenticity is creating a ripple effect, changing not just how we date, but how we connect with each other in general.
That's a great observation, and it raises some really interesting questions about the future of online interaction as a whole.
Like, could this shift toward authenticity eventually lead to a more genuine and fulfilling online experience for everyone?
It's certainly a possibility. Imagine a world where social media is less about presenting a perfect image and more about sharing real moments and connecting with like-minded individuals.
That sounds amazing. A world where we can all be ourselves online without feeling judged or pressured to conform.
It's a vision worth striving for, and while the source acknowledges that, there will always be challenges and obstacles. They believe that the movement towards authenticity is gaining momentum.
It's definitely encouraging to see platforms like Just U2 leading the charge.
Absolutely. And it'll be fascinating to see how this movement continues to evolve in the years to come.
So to wrap things up, it seems like authenticity is more than just a buzzword. In the world of online dating, it's a growing movement that's changing how we connect with each other online. And platforms like Just U2 are at the forefront of this shift, offering a glimpse into a future where genuine connection is valued above all else. But here's a final thought for you. As this desire for authenticity spreads to other areas of our digital lives, what role will you play in shaping this new landscape? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.